The last customers had just left the tiny diner when the lights dimmed into their soft evening glow. The neon sign outside flickered with its usual half-broken pulse, painting the wet sole sidewalk in red and white streaks. Inside, the smell of fried mandu and grilled pork lingered, settling into the air like an afterthought. Dishes clattered in the sink. A fan hummed in the corner. And Maya wiped down the last table with slow, tired circles. She had moved to Seoul only 8 months ago. What was supposed to be a temporary adventure had turned into something steadier. Busan first, then Seoul. A few English teaching gigs that paid enough to survive. Then this diner job, cramped, noisy, and full of quirks, but somehow comforting. Maya worked hard. Harder than anyone else on the staff, the other waitresses always said. And it was true. She needed the money, and she needed something to throw herself into after the breakup that had nearly deflated her whole chest back in Atlanta. But the downside of being the foreigner in a small diner was that people sometimes acted like the rules bent around her. Most customers loved her warmth. The regulars joked with her. The elderly women always tried to feed her too much kimchi. But the manager, he was a different story. Kim Du-cheol, 40-something, always chewing gum like it owed him money. Slight limp in his left leg, though he never explained why. His eyes had a calculating glint that made Maya feel like she had to fold her arms across her chest whenever he looked at her too long. Tonight, he'd been watching her more than usual. The rain outside grew heavier, tapping against the windows in impatient fingers. Maya swept the floor, humming to herself, trying to shake off the tension in her shoulders. "You work too slow," Du-cheol said from the counter. He wasn't even pretending to help close up. His feet were up on a chair, his phone in his hand. "I'm almost finished," Maya replied calmly. She was used to it. He criticized everything she did, her pace, her pronunciation, even her smile. "You always say that." His tone was sharp, like it was designed to cut. 10 minutes past closing already. "It's raining," she said. "People stayed longer, sir." He scoffed and dropped his phone onto the counter. "See, that's the problem. You talk too much." Maya bit the inside of her cheek. "Just finish cleaning. Get out. Go home. Bleep." She walked behind the counter to put the mop away, and she froze the moment she sensed him standing too close behind her. Du-cheol's breath touched the back of her neck before his words did. "You know," he murmured, "a girl like you shouldn't work so late alone." Maya stiffened. "I'm not alone. You're here." He gave a low laugh. "Yes, I am." The tone made her stomach twist. She tried to move around him, but he stepped left, deliberately blocking her path. The diner suddenly felt too small, too silent, like all the noise in the world had been sucked out. "Move, please," Maya said, keeping her voice steady. "No," his hand came down on the counter beside her hip, caging her in. "You think you too good for Korean men? Huh? You act like you're better than everyone here." "That's not true." He clicked his tongue. "Foreign girls always think they can talk back." He leaned closer. Too close. Maya backed up until her shoulders brushed the shelves behind her. Her pulse beat like a trapped animal. Du-cheol's hand lifted, reaching toward her chin. And that was when a voice spoke from the back corner booth, a voice neither of them had realized was still in the diner. "Take your hand down." Du-cheol jerked, startled. Maya turned sharply, eyes widening. Someone was sitting in the shadows of the booth. A man. The rain outside had become a muffled roar, but somehow the diner felt even quieter. The man didn't stand yet. He was relaxed, forearms resting on the table. A half-finished drink sat in front of him, barley tea, still steaming faintly. He had been there long enough for it to cool, long enough for both Maya and the manager to forget there had even been a customer after the evening rush. He wore a black coat with a high collar, his hair swept back neatly, revealing sharp cheekbones and dark, steady eyes. Calm eyes. Cold eyes. Ryan. Du-cheol's expression twisted. "Sir, we're closed. You shouldn't be here." Ryan ignored the manager completely. His gaze was pinned on Maya, as if checking whether she was hurt, as if memorizing every tremble in her posture. Then he rose from the booth. He wasn't tall in an exaggerated sense, but he carried a presence that filled the room, swallowing oxygen. His steps were quiet, controlled, deliberate. Every motion said authority without needing to announce it. And Maya could see something flicker in the manager's face. Fear? Recognition? It was hard to tell in the dim light. Ryan stopped just a few feet away. His voice was low, smooth, almost too calm. Step away from her. Ducciol straightened his shoulders, trying to look bigger than he was. Who are you to talk to me like that in my own diner? Ryan tilted his head the slightest degree. Your diner? Yes. I run this place. I make the rules here. Ryan looked around slowly. The empty tables, the flickering neon leaking through the window, the abandoned mop leaning against the wall. Then he fixed his eyes on the manager again. You don't run anything. Maya swallowed, suddenly aware that she didn't understand what was happening, but she understood enough to know the balance of power had shifted. Ducciol's jaw tightened. Get out. Before I call the police. Ryan didn't move. Didn't blink. If you touch her again, you won't make that call. The manager scoffed, trying desperately to claw back the upper hand. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Something in his voice, controlled, deadly, quiet, made Maya's breath catch. Ryan shifted his gaze to her, and the intensity in his eyes softened, just a fraction. Enough to feel like someone had thrown her a lifeline. Are you all right? He asked. She nodded, though her hands were still trembling. Ducciol sputtered. Don't talk to her like you know her. She works for me. Ryan turned to him again, expression flat. You don't deserve her respect. Then, finally, the manager saw it. Recognition clicked. His face drained. You're... Ryan's silence confirmed it. Whatever name the streets whispered, whatever power coiled behind his calm exterior, it was enough. Ducciol stumbled back. Ryan didn't touch him, didn't threaten further. He simply stepped closer to Maya, placing himself between her and the man who had cornered her minutes earlier. Maya exhaled shakily, the tension in her shoulders loosening for the first time all night. The rain outside kept pounding the pavement, but inside the diner, the storm had already shifted. And for reasons she didn't fully understand yet, she felt safer standing beside this stranger than she had felt in months. Ducciol backed into a stack of chairs he hadn't finished putting away, the metal legs clattering loudly in the near-empty diner. The sound broke the tense silence like a snapped wire, but Ryan didn't flinch. He stood perfectly still between Maya and the manager, posture steady, hands relaxed at his sides, as if he didn't need to lift a finger to make the entire room bend toward him. Listen, Ducciol stammered. This is a misunderstanding. I wasn't doing anything to her. Ryan didn't respond. He didn't need to. His dark eyes held the kind of quiet that made grown men question their life choices. Maya stepped back from the counter, putting distance between herself and the place where she'd felt trapped just minutes earlier. Her heart was still pounding, not out of fear now, but from the shock of what she was seeing, the shift, the unraveling of her manager in front of a man she had never met. I think you should leave, she said softly to the manager, surprising even herself with how steady her voice came out. Ducciol glanced at her, eyes flicking nervously back to Ryan as if asking silent permission. But Ryan merely watched him with unreadable calm, his expression revealing nothing except quiet disdain. Why yes, I'll go, the manager muttered, grabbing his coat and practically tripping over his own feet as he made for the door. The bell above it jingled weakly as he disappeared into the rain. The diner fell into stillness again. For a moment, Maya just stood there, breathing in the warm scent of broth and pepper flakes, her hands slowly unclenching from fists she hadn't realized she'd made. The dim lights hummed faintly overhead. Ryan didn't turn to her immediately. He waited, giving her space, giving the moment a chance to settle. Then his voice came, calm and low. He won't bother you again. Maya let out a breath she felt she'd been holding the entire evening. I don't even know who you are. Ryan finally turned to face her fully. His expression softened, Not by much, but enough. Just someone who saw something he shouldn't have. That wasn't your business, she said, though there was no fight in her tone. Only confusion. Gratitude. A little disbelief. No, he agreed. It wasn't. Then why say anything? His eyes met hers, unwavering. Because he was wrong. The simplicity of it disarmed her. There was no bravado, no grand speech. Just an undeniable truth in the way he spoke. Maya shifted her weight, crossing her arms lightly, more out of self-protection than defiance. You could have gotten hurt, she said. Ryan's lips curved, not a smile, but something like it. That was never a possibility. It wasn't arrogance. It was certainty. Like gravity speaking. Maya's eyes narrowed slightly. Who are you, really? He considered her a moment, his gaze studying her face in a way that wasn't intrusive, just observant. Deeply so. My name is Ryan. I figured that, she said. But that doesn't answer my question. No, he said quietly. It doesn't. They stood there, the soft hum of the refrigerators filling the silence. The diner suddenly felt too large for only two people, and yet somehow not uncomfortable. Not with him here. Did you need something? Maya finally asked, gesturing vaguely toward the tea he had abandoned in the corner booth. Only some time to think. This place was quiet. He paused, eyes drifting toward the counter where Du Cheol had cornered her moments earlier. Or I thought it was. Maya exhaled slowly and brushed her braids back over her shoulder. Well, thank you. For stepping in. You shouldn't be thanking me. His expression tightened, though not with anger, with something like regret. If I'd spoken sooner, he wouldn't have gotten close to you at all. You weren't supposed to be part of this, she said, shaking her head. It's just my stupid job. Ryan stepped closer, not enough to crowd her, but enough that his voice lowered as though offering protection itself. No job justifies fear. Something in Maya's chest loosened. A knot, a weight she'd been carrying without realizing it. But she couldn't let herself lean into that warmth, not from a stranger. Well, it won't matter. I should probably quit anyway. Ryan frowned. Why? She laughed, a small, breathy sound. Did you not see what just happened? He treats me like trash. And I can't spend every night worried he'll try something again. You shouldn't have to, he said simply. Maya stared at him. He spoke as if the world was supposed to listen. As if reality rearranged itself when he made a statement. Her eyes drifted to the booth he'd been sitting in. Something about his presence lingered there, calm, steady, controlled. He didn't look like someone who frequented small diners at closing time. He looked like someone who wore darkness comfortably, someone who didn't need to raise his voice to command a room. Someone powerful. Can I ask you something? Maya said. You can ask. That was not a yes, but she continued anyway. You scared him. Du Cheol looked like he'd seen a ghost. And you barely said anything. Ryan didn't react, didn't deny it. People like him, Ryan said quietly, learn to recognize danger. The statement rippled through her, deeper than she expected. She took a slow breath. So, you weren't just some late-night customer. No. Silence. The rain outside softened into a lighter patter, the kind that washed the city in silver instead of thunder. Ryan studied her again, not with hunger or arrogance, but with a kind of thoughtful intensity. You should go home, he finally said. You've had a long night. Yeah, Maya murmured. That's one way to put it. He moved toward the door, pausing just before pushing it open. Do you live far? No. 20-minute walk. He turned slightly. At this hour? It's safe enough. Not tonight. She blinked. Why not tonight? He studied the empty street outside. Because he left angry. Angry people make stupid choices. Maya's throat tightened. You think he'll come back? No, Ryan said. Not while I'm here. Meaning. He held the door open, waiting for her to join him. I'll walk you home. Maya's heart thumped hard. You don't have to. I know. So, why offer? His gaze found her again. Deep, unwavering, soft in a way she didn't expect. Because you deserve to feel safe, Maya. Her lips parted, the breath catching in her lungs. He'd remembered her name. And suddenly, for the first time since she'd stepped into Seoul, she didn't feel like a stranger in the city. She felt seen. Really seen. With one last glance around the diner, Maya grabbed her bag and stepped toward the door, toward the man who had turned a terrifying night into something entirely different. Something she didn't have a word for yet. The rain had thinned into a fine mist by the time Maya and Ryan stepped outside. The pavement glistened beneath the streetlights, reflecting the neon signs in wavering patches of red, green, and electric blue. Seoul was quieter at this hour, but not silent. Taxis hummed in the distance, a convenience store door chimed faintly down the block, and a group of students burst into laughter as they hurried across the street, umbrellas bobbing like mushrooms. Maya pulled her jacket tighter around herself as the cool air touched her skin. Ryan walked beside her, his hands tucked in the pockets of his coat, his steps measured and smooth. So, Maya said, glancing up at him, you walk strangers home often, or am I special? Ryan didn't react with embarrassment or confusion. Instead, he answered with a straight, steady voice. You're not a stranger. She blinked. We've known each other for, 15 minutes? Long enough. His tone didn't shift, but something warm flickered under it, something she couldn't quite name. I don't even know what you do, Maya said lightly. You don't want to know. I mean, maybe I do, she teased, though her voice carried genuine curiosity. His eyes met hers briefly. Not tonight. The way he said it, final but gentle, told her he wasn't hiding because he wanted to push her away. It was more like he was protecting something. Or protecting her from knowing too much too fast. So, you live near here? She asked. He nodded. Farther north. But I move around. That sounds vague. It is. Maya let out a breathy laugh. You're not making this easy. I'm not trying to. They turned down a narrower street where lantern lights hung above the alleyway, casting soft red glows over the wet stones. Maya loved these tucked-away pockets of the city, the places where Seoul felt old and new at once, where the world slowed down enough for her to think. You come to the diner often? She asked. No. Tonight was the first time. Really? Why my diner? He was quiet for 3 steps. It was open. And I needed quiet. And coffee. Tea, he corrected. Right. Barley tea. She smiled. I remember. I noticed. She looked up at him. You noticed everything, didn't you? He didn't deny it. The street opened into a small park, the one where Maya usually cut through to get home. A couple of benches glistened with rainwater, and the trees whispered under the soft drizzle. Ryan slowed his steps. This is part of your route? Yeah, she said. Usually it's peaceful. His jaw tightened slightly. Tonight it's too empty. They walked through anyway, Maya stepping carefully over puddles, Ryan scanning the surroundings with an alertness she couldn't miss. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes were sharp, shifting subtly between shadows and movement. You really think he might come back? She asked. No, he said. But I think men like him don't like being humiliated. She swallowed. You humiliated him just by existing. That wasn't my intention. I didn't say it was. A breeze rustled the branches overhead, shaking loose droplets that pattered softly onto the path. Maya rubbed her arms against the chill. You cold? Ryan asked. A little. Without a word, he took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. It was still warm from his body, thick, and carried a faint clean scent. Pine, something smoky, something she didn't recognize but immediately liked. Ryan, you didn't have to. You were cold, he replied simply. She held the coat tighter. What about you? I'm fine. You're wearing a shirt. He glanced down at his sleeves. They're warm enough. She rolled her eyes. You're impossible. He allowed the barest hint of amusement. So I've been told. They left the park and entered a quieter street lined with apartment buildings. Lights glowed faintly behind curtains. Somewhere above them, someone's TV played a late-night talk show. The smell of rain-soaked asphalt mixed with the faint aroma of grilled meat drifting from a nearby restaurant. Maya's steps slowed. "Ryan," she said softly. "Yes. I'm glad you were there." Ryan turned fully toward her. The streetlight caught the edges of his face, tracing his cheekbones and the sharp line of his jaw. His expression was unreadable, yet gentle in a way she hadn't expected from someone who radiated danger like cologne. "I'm glad I was too," he said quietly. "Though I wish you hadn't needed me." Maya looked down, her chest tight. "Things like that, they happen too often. Your manager has done this before." It wasn't even a question. He said it like a truth he'd already accepted. Maya hesitated. He's said things. Tried to test boundaries. And no one did anything. She shrugged one shoulder, her voice small. "People don't want to get involved." "I do." The certainty in his tone stopped her. A warmth spread through her ribs, unexpected, steady, frightening in how comforting it felt. "Why?" she whispered. Ryan stepped closer, close enough that the cool air between them warmed. "Because you don't deserve to endure cruelty alone." Her breath caught. Before she could speak, a group of young men stumbled out of a convenience store across the street, laughing loudly and nudging each other. One of them called something teasing to his friend, and the group dissolved into more laughter. Ryan didn't look at them, but Maya noticed his posture shift, a subtle tightening, protective rather than aggressive. He was always aware, always calculating. They kept walking until Maya pointed to her building. A modest apartment complex with rows of identical balconies and a single flickering light over the entrance. "That's me," she said. Ryan nodded. "I'll walk you to the door." She smiled softly. "Do you ever take no for an answer?" "I do," he said, "but not tonight." When they reached the entrance, Maya pulled off his coat and held it out to him. "Thank you." "You're welcome." She hesitated, then added, "For everything." Ryan took the coat but didn't put it on. His eyes held hers, dark and steady. "Maya," he said quietly, "if he threatens you again, if anyone threatens you, call me." Her breath hitched. I don't have your number." "You will." He pulled a small card from his pocket. Simple, black, embossed with a number and nothing else. No name. No title. Just a number. Maya swallowed. "Ryan, what are you involved in?" He stepped back, shadows touching the edges of his frame. "Enough that you'll be safe." A shiver ran down her spine. Not fear. Not at all. Something entirely different. "Good night, Maya." "Good night, Ryan." He lingered for a breath, just long enough that she wondered if he felt the same pull she did, then turned and walked down the wet sidewalk, disappearing into the night like he was built from it. Maya stood at the doorway long after he was gone, Ryan's card warm in her hand, her heart warm in her chest. And for the first time in a very long time, she didn't feel alone. Maya barely slept. Every time she drifted toward rest, her mind snapped back to the sound of Ryan's voice, the look in his eyes, the steadiness of him standing between her and danger like it was the most natural thing in the world. She replayed the moment he handed her the card, that simple black rectangle with a number embossed like a secret. And the way he said her name. Like it was something he'd been repeating in his mind long before she heard it. By morning, the rain had cleared, leaving the sky pale and washed out over Seoul's rooftops. Maya stared at the ceiling of her apartment, his coat scent still lingering faintly in her hair. She wrapped herself in her blanket, thinking through what she'd say when she went to quit the diner. She couldn't work with Du Cheol. Not anymore. And maybe that was for the best. Her phone buzzed beside her. A text from her friend and co-worker Hayan. "Hayan. Maya, heard Du Cheol left early last night. He's been acting weird this morning. What happened? Maya hesitated before typing back. Maya. Long story. I'll talk to you later. She didn't mention Ryan. She wasn't sure how to begin. How do you explain someone like him in a text message? How do you sum up the presence of a man who could stop a storm with one sentence? She got ready slowly, her stomach tight with nerves. She wasn't sure how the day would go. She wasn't even sure if she wanted to see Du Cheol at all. But she had to finish this chapter cleanly. When she arrived at the diner, the morning sun reflected sharply off the metal chairs stacked outside. The neon sign buzzed faintly, brighter in daylight than it ever looked at night. Inside, Hayan was wiping down tables, and 2 cooks were already prepping side dishes. Du Cheol was not in sight. Maya swallowed her nervousness and walked up to the counter. Hayan glanced up. "Hey, you okay?" "Yeah," Maya lied. "Where's Mr. Kim?" Hayan lowered her voice. "He called in sick. First time in forever." Maya blinked. That man didn't take sick days. He even came in with a fever once and barked orders from a stool for 3 hours. "He looked scared this morning," Hayan added, leaning closer. "I don't know why." Maya's pulse slowed. He must have known exactly who Ryan was. Or at least known enough. She exhaled softly. "Listen," she said. "I need to talk to you and the others later. Something happened." Hayan's expression softened. "I'm here. Just say when." Maya nodded, but she couldn't shake the uneasy tightness in her chest. She worked the morning shift quietly, cleaning and serving like usual, but her mind floated elsewhere. Back to the booth where Ryan had sat. Back to the moment their eyes met. Back to the quiet power wrapped around him like breath. Back to how safe she had felt. Around midday, she pulled out her phone during break and stared at the black card. She shouldn't call him. She didn't need to call him. He'd helped her once. That didn't mean she should rely on him. Still, her thumb hovered over the number. And she wondered. That night, she didn't need to wonder long. It was late again when she finished her shift. The rain had returned, gentler this time, misting the windshield of cars and settling in her hair like dew. She stepped out of the diner, holding her umbrella, ready to walk home. Then she stopped. Someone was standing beneath the street lamp across from the diner. Tall. Phil. Wearing the same dark coat she had returned to him last night. Ryan. He wasn't looking at his phone or watching the street. He was watching her. Her breath caught in her throat. "You're here," she said, crossing the street slowly. "Why?" Ryan's eyes softened the moment she came near. "I wanted to make sure he didn't bother you today." "He didn't come in," she said. Hayan said he looked terrified. "He should be," Ryan said, voice flat. She looked at him carefully. "What did you do?" "Nothing yet." The implication stirred something uneasy but not fearful inside her. He wasn't threatening. He wasn't unhinged. There was control in everything about him. Even the danger felt restrained, deliberate. "Ryan," she said softly, "I don't want trouble." "You won't have any." "That's not what I mean." He nodded slightly. "I know." They fell into step together without having to say they would. Maya opened her umbrella wider so he could share the cover, though she suspected he would have walked through the rain without complaint. "Was your day all right?" he asked. "It was quiet." "Good." "You didn't have to wait for me," she said. "Yes, I did." She inhaled sharply. "Ryan." He glanced down at her. "If he had shown up, would you have been comfortable walking home alone?" Her silence was answer enough. He nodded. "Then I was right to wait." They walked through the soft drizzle, passing dim shopfronts and closed bakeries. The rhythmic tap of rain on the umbrella blended with the soft hum of the city settling into night. "Do you always take responsibility for people you barely know?" she asked lightly. "No." "So why me?" He didn't answer immediately. His gaze drifted ahead, watching the path, the shadows, everything. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower. "Because you looked afraid." And that was enough? It shouldn't need to be more, he said. Maya's chest tightened, warmth blooming in her bones. She wasn't used to someone noticing her fear, not like this, not with this quiet gravity. They reached the park. The lantern swayed gently in the wet breeze. Ryan slowed. I thought about leaving earlier, he said. But something told me you might want company tonight. She swallowed. And you listened to that? Yes. They stepped beneath the trees, droplets falling like silver beads around them. Maya tightened her grip on the umbrella handle. Can I ask you something? She said. Yes. Are you dangerous? He didn't stop walking. He didn't tense. He didn't react with surprise. He just said, quietly, yes. Her heart skipped. But then he added, not to you. There was no hesitation in his voice. No wavering. Just truth spoken simply. Maya's breath trembled out of her. I believe you. I know. They reached her building again, the flickering light casting soft shadows around the doorway. She turned to him, feeling something pull her closer even though she stayed rooted in place. Will I see you tomorrow? She asked before she could stop herself. Ryan hesitated, only for a heartbeat. Yes. The word warmed her more than his coat ever could. Good night, Maya. Good night, Ryan. This time, he didn't disappear into the night immediately. He waited until she was inside the building's entryway before turning, hands in his pockets, soaked hair glistening under the street lamp. He walked away slowly, deliberately, as if he knew she was still watching. And she was. Her pulse thrummed with something unfamiliar. Something she didn't dare name yet. But she knew one thing for certain. Ryan wasn't just a man she met by accident. He was going to change everything. The snow had softened into a gentle drizzle by the time they reached the small bridge crossing the river behind the diner. The city lights shimmered on the surface of the water, stretching the skyline into long, trembling reflections. She walked beside Ryan, their steps sinking naturally. It felt easy, as if the universe had taken a deep breath and finally exhaled. Are you cold? Ryan asked quietly. A little, she admitted, hugging her arms. Without hesitation, he shrugged off his coat and placed it over her shoulders. It was warm from his body heat, and the faint scent of cedar clung to the fabric. You really don't have to. I want to, he said softly. You deserve comfort. Her chest tightened. No one had said something like that to her in a long time. They stopped at the middle of the bridge. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air hummed with something bigger than both of them, an emotion neither dared to name yet. You okay? She finally asked, turning toward him. Ryan leaned on the railing, gaze lowering to the water. I was angry, he said, when I saw him cornering you. Her breath caught. Most people would have walked away. He turned to her, eyes shadowed but sincere. I'm not most people. The honesty in his voice made her heart flip. She studied him. The quiet tension in his jaw, the hint of protectiveness he didn't even try to hide. His reputation said he was dangerous. But standing beside him now, she didn't feel danger. She felt safe. You shouldn't have to deal with that at work, he added. Or anywhere. Silence pooled around them again. Soft, warm, almost intimate. I didn't expect tonight to go like this, she said with a little laugh. I was just supposed to work. Clean some tables. Get yelled at for wiping the counter wrong. Ryan's expression shifted, not angry, but something close to regret. You were working in that place because you needed to, he said, not as a question but as an understanding. Most people don't care what that kind of stress does to someone. She swallowed. I just want to build a life here. Something stable. Something that doesn't hurt. Ryan's voice dropped into a deeper, softer register. You deserve that too. Her fingers curled around the railing. Why does it feel like you see right through me? Because I've been watching you for months. Her eyes widened. You have. He nodded slowly. Not in a strange way. Just noticing you. You're kind to people who don't deserve it. You don't let anyone see when you're tired. You work harder than 3 people combined. A faint smile tugged at his lips. It's hard not to notice someone like that. Heat rushed to her face. Ryan. He held her gaze for a long moment, then looked away at the water again. I didn't think you'd ever know my name, he confessed. That surprised her more than anything else tonight. This man, who commanded entire rooms into silence just by being in them, he thought she might not notice him? You're the one who sits alone in the corner booth every night, she said. Quiet but not cold. You tip well, even when you barely touch your food. She tilted her head slightly. And you always look like you're thinking about something important. Ryan blinked as if stunned. You noticed all that? Of course I did. Something changed in his eyes then. Softened. Opened. He stepped a little closer, not too close, but enough that his warmth reached her. Then maybe, he said quietly, tonight didn't happen by accident. Her heartbeat stuttered. She didn't move away. Maybe it didn't, she whispered back. For a moment, they simply breathed the same air. The drizzle dusted their hair. The street lamps painted their shadows long and thin on the bridge tiles. It was Ryan who finally broke the stillness, his voice low. I want to help you, he said. Not because I pity you. Not because I expect anything in return. Just because I want to see you safe. Her throat tightened. Ryan, I don't want to be a problem for you. You're not a problem. His tone was firm. You're someone I want to protect. Her chest ached at the sincerity in his voice, so gentle coming from such a formidable man. I'm not used to people looking out for me, she whispered. Then let me be the first. She looked up at him, at the seriousness in his expression, at the gentleness he tried to hide behind it. Something in her loosened. Something long locked away, now opening. Before she could speak, Ryan reached out slowly, carefully, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers grazed her cheek, brushing away a raindrop, or maybe a tear, she couldn't tell. You're safe now, he said. That simple sentence nearly undid her. She took a shaky breath. What happens now? Ryan lowered his hand but kept close. Whatever you want. He hesitated. If you need time, I'll wait. If you want distance, I'll give it. If you want help, I'll handle it. You lead. I follow. Her heart swelled painfully at the tenderness disguised as restraint. Stay, she said quietly. Just stay with me a little longer. The smallest smile touched his lips, real, soft, almost boyish. I can do that. They began walking along the riverbank, side by side. Their hands didn't touch yet, but they hung close enough that the promise of closeness hummed between them. I keep thinking about the way you grabbed my arm earlier, she said teasingly. Ryan cleared his throat. I was scared for you. You were angry. Yes, he admitted. Very. I've never seen anyone stand up for me like that. He stopped walking. She turned toward him, surprised. Then get used to it, he said quietly. Because I'm not going anywhere. Her breath hitched. The city lights shimmered off his dark eyes, turning them into something impossibly tender. This doesn't feel real, she murmured. Let me prove it is. She didn't know who leaned in first. The space between them just dissolved. Not into a kiss, not into anything rushed, but into a closeness that felt like an answer to a question she didn't know she'd been asking her whole life. He touched his forehead gently to hers, a gesture so intimate it made her knees weaken. Tonight begins at your pace, he whispered. She closed her eyes, letting herself breathe him in, warmth, cedar, quiet strength. Okay, she whispered back. Then stay with me. Ryan nodded once, slowly. Always. They walked on, the night unfolding before them, soft, promise-filled, and new. And somewhere behind them, the neon sign of the diner flickered out for the last time.